Looper is a 2012 sci-fi thriller directed by Rian Johnson and starring Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Emily Blunt. Taking place in 2074, time travel has become possible but made outlawed. Now the only ones who use it are powerful mob organizations. They hire hitmen from a certain point in the past, sending back the bodies of victims to be murdered and disposed of at that completely different point in time. The hitmen are only used up to a certain point. After receiving a final payoff, they know one day they will be sent back to be killed by themselves, closing the loop and disposing of all evidence. Joe is one such hitman, but when his future self is sent back, it doesn't go as planned. Joe's future self eventually finds some hint of redemption upon falling in love and marrying a woman. When his clients come to collect his life, she is killed as well. Joe explains to his younger self he intends to save his wife and change his future by finding the man who orchestrated his death, a mysterious telekinetic crime boss known only as the Rainmaker. Old Joe knows of 3 children who may grow up to become this man and seeks to kill him before it happens, saving his future. Young Joe, not completely trusting or caring about his older self, wants to catch and kill him, preserving his possible future. Some information leads him to a farm where Sarah and her young son reside. In hiding from more mob hitmen and lying in wait for his older self, young Joe slowly develops a bond with Sarah and her son, although he knows the possibility that young Sid may in fact become the Rainmaker. Looper is a crime drama that uses time in a unique but ultimately underdeveloped way. As is often the case with time travel, it is difficult to pull it off without inevitable questions. When watching Looper, there are various instances where you might be asking, well, how can he be doing this if he did that? Or if this is happening then, wouldn't that change this now? Of course, Looper offers the possibility of at least a few alternate timelines, but most importantly, that time is fluid and can change, both within one or an infinite number of possibilities. As with much science fiction, though, the concept is more of a hook and an impetus for the setting rather than the meat of the story. At its core, Looper is a story about choices. While the implications of the film are that our environment plays a significant factor in determining what type of people we become, it is our choices also that define the course of our lives, if not equally, perhaps just enough to make a difference. Our main character Joe is essentially a perfect example of a man who is essentially a product of a life which has been leading down a dark path from a very young age. We know he lost his mother when he was young and had turned to petty crime for desperation, ultimately finding salvation when the mob middleman from the future, Abe, decided to turn him into a looper. Although he commits murders for money and indulges in drug abuse, Joe seems to have an underlying desire to aspire to something more. He plans to explore the world upon retirement, attempting some element of sophistication as he learns French. We see that Joe is willing to sacrifice much for a chance to gain a better life, even turning his friends over to the mob. This holds a greater truth, though, for as much as Joe wishes to escape his old life, he seems unable to escape the man he has become. For in his future, though he attempts to lead a peaceful life in China, he ultimately falls into the same pattern of drugs, crime, and violence. Whether by choice or by the weight of his past, Joe repeats these patterns of destruction. This changes when he truly falls in love with a woman, something that he suggested early on in the film. The woman helps him overcome drugs and leave his criminal life behind. By truly connecting with this person, Joe is able to obtain salvation and the peace he has always sought for. Actions have consequences, though, and the same life that allowed him to meet with this woman who would save him ultimately led to that same joy being taken away. Once again, the product of a long, violent life. Old Joe could in many ways be seen as the antagonist of the film. Though the audience is meant to feel for him, he performs actions that suggest otherwise. Although this is the Joe whose love has apparently allowed him to break free from his actions, he demonstrates that he will go back to those same patterns, perhaps even worse ones, in order to gain what he wants. He may be driven by love, but he is driven even more so by his own selfishness and desperation. With the possibility that the Rainmaker is one of 3 children, though it is difficult, he shows he is willing to kill innocent children to ensure his own happy ending. I don't want to reveal all the particulars of the twist at the end, but the ultimate theme is one regarding the power of choice, and that the most powerful choice to break endless cycles of violence may in fact be self-sacrifice. Looper falls into that category of movies people would suspect that I would like, but I'm not overly fond of. I think the time travel and organized crime elements are interesting, but are never really explored in much detail. It's the hook of the movie, but not the focus. It's a more personal story. I think it actually works well, and I admit that I enjoyed it more the second time. It requires the viewer to pay attention. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a good job impersonating a young Bruce Willis, even though the makeup only sort of works. The film is shot well, utilizing vast landscapes and enclosed urban areas for varying effects. Bruce Willis is one of my favorite actors, so it's always cool to see him doing something interesting. My favorite part of the film involves him getting captured by the mob. I was like, how can he possibly get out of this? The answer, of course, was obvious. He's Bruce Willis. He wipes out the entire gang dual-wielding machine guns. Naturally. Emily Blunt is good as well, and the young actor portraying Sid is effectively cute and creepy. I think the creepiness surrounding his character suggests a possible sabotage of the message, but at the end of the film you can accept the possibility of something else. Overall, I think Looper is a good film with interesting ideas, a decent pace, and a very profound, if not slightly bittersweet message. No matter what, we always have a choice.